Awesome. Happy Friday. We are on the 9th law, and I'm so excited to have each and every one of you on here today. J Lo and J High tuning in. I love the J squared duo. We are talking about the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Live them and reach your potential. The #1 New York Times bestseller by Dr. John Maxwell. And just to preface before we launch into this is based off of John's book, and we're just sharing our insights into his leadership and nuggets. So all of this is taken from the book. All of the content you can be purchased on Amazon, at a bookstore. John Maxwell is an incredible leader, thought leader, and success mentor. So we're excited to be diving into depth and really just unlocking those laws with him and sharing our feedback and nuggets as we just highlight and hone in on each chapter on a weekly basis. So let's jump into this law here and get started. So we're going to talk today about the law of the environment and how truly growth thrives in conducive surroundings. As you can see, every week I'm in a different environment, getting uncomfortable, getting comfortable, getting uncomfortable. I'm here in the sunny state of Atlanta. It's mid-November, and it's kind of crazy that it's 78 degrees, but we're excited to be in this conducive environment, one that really just helps me thrive. And so we're going to talk about what that means, and I'm going to kick it over to my sidekick, mentor, leader, rock star. So this is us, and we are excited to launch into this with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. It's interesting when we think about that term environment, a lot of times we think of just physical surroundings, but you'll find as we kind of talk through this chapter, environment is also who you surround yourself with, the mindset that you're in. I mean, that also is an environment, right? So I'm excited about kind of delving in as well. So in that next slide that Jess is going to hop to, it's going to talk about that when is the time for change? There's a couple of really cool, thank you. There's a couple of cool quotes here. The best place to learn is always when others are ahead of you. And what they're talking about there is really, when you're in, I remember when I was an athlete and playing sports, you don't always want to be the extreme best, because then what are you striving towards? If you're always at the top of the ladder, if you will, there's never anything there for you to reach towards. And sometimes you play down. We used to talk about that a lot in sports, that, you never want to play below your ability. You always want to be striving to an ability above you. So I was always looking towards someone who hit better than I, or who fielded better than I, or who was a better leader than I, and really, align myself with that person so that they would pull me up versus me begin to come downwards to someone else who really wasn't in the same quality, in the same space. So it's understanding when is that, understanding that the best time to learn really is when others are ahead of you. And that quote there is, if you're always at the head of the class, then you're in the wrong class, go find another one. And I love that. It's very simple, very, very profound, but really meant a lot. And he shares a story in here. Jess, I don't know if you wanted to add into that or whatever, but he did have an awesome story about, who he was as John Maxwell, kind of walking through when was the right time for him to change. So I'll pass it back to you and see what your thoughts are on this part of the chapter.
Yeah, I love this chapter, and just talking about a time for change. I think every day is a time for change. And if you're not changing, you're not growing and you're dying, right? So therefore, I love this piece too. If you're at the head of the class, I relate this to me being an athlete, kind of like Jess did. And, being a marathon runner, being an athlete. This morning I ran with a good friend of mine, and he's challenging me to go faster. And I think it's always great if you can surround yourself with people that pull you ahead rather than people that slow you down. And I love the analogy of running, because you can measure your pace. And if you're trying to keep up with somebody, it's going to push you to go harder, faster, longer, stronger. Same thing in business. If you're surrounding yourself with people, like this morning, I got to meet with one of the top leaders in our company. He's a multi-million-dollar earner. And I'm just like hanging on his coattails, like, take me with you and challenge me to grow. So, if you're not at the head of the class, you're in the wrong class. So get in a class of its own. And John Maxwell shares one of his experiences getting into a new ministry. And, it's going to be unsettling at first, and people may not like where you are, or that you're leaving or changing your environment, but it's about you. And if you're not changing, how else do you expect to challenge others to grow along the same path? So let's jump into the next one. Change depends on your choices. And the quote from the book is from Nico: "Whether you are a success or a failure in life has little to do with your circumstances. It has much to do with your choices." So really just figuring out whether or not you're making those decisions that are going to fuel your success or detriment your success. So, J-Lo?
Yeah, I love that. He talks a lot about, changing that attitude. That it really depends on your attitude. And when attitude, you allow that to fuel you, that's really the first step to growth. It's the beginning stages of saying, okay, my mind is here. I'm choosing to move in that right direction. We talked a lot about decisions and making that choice. Well, this is where it starts. It starts with the attitude to want to change, okay? Mm-hmm. And it kind of starts to go into, and each of these slides are going to kind of pull that, like I talk about the layer, the onion, we're going to pull the pieces back. Well, this first area, that what we need to do is really to put 6 choices before us to be able to determine, is our attitude in the right space? So how about you hop into that next one, Jess, real quick?
And so what we're going to do is really dive into these 6 choices, and it is about attitude. Assessing your current environment is number 1. So, let's go ahead, Jess.
No worries. So assessing that current environment is exactly what it sounds like. In order to change, you got to know, where you've been, right, and why you do want to change. So it's not just about where you are at this moment, at this particular space, but you kind of got to know where you've been, why you want to move forward, and then begin to ask questions that help you understand who and what really nurtures your soul. So I love that Jess posted these here. Again, all from this book, taking John Maxwell's thoughts and really assessing what fuels you, what nurtures you, what creates that passion for you, in order to be able to say, yeah, these are the whys. I'm not happy in this area or that area, and now is the reason why my attitude begins to shift. Pass it back.
Yeah, and in this first portion, John Maxwell shares a story about a woman who had just purchased a parrot. And it's a hilarious story if you read the excerpt of this book. But she talks about, the parrot's not speaking. What do I do? She goes to the pet store and she's like, my parrot is not speaking. And they're like, well, does he have a mirror? Parrots like mirrors. So she goes, she buys a mirror, comes back. The parrot's still not speaking. So he's like, hey, do you have this? And she goes back and she's buying all this stuff. And the end of the story, really the moral of the story is quite comical. And she comes back a few days later and she's like, my parrot died. And the store owner is like, well, what did the parrot say any last words? And she's like, yeah, the parrot said, don't they sell food down there? So assess your environment and what you need to flourish, what you need to grow, and stop looking exteriorly, look internally at really what your current environment is offering you. And I posted these because in the first portion, it talks about really what you don't have and what you're not having and what you're not getting. And I think too many times we focus on the negative or what we don't have rather than focusing on what do we desire, where are we going, what's the long-term vision, and what are we striving towards. So I made mental notes on, music, for example. What songs lift you? Thoughts. What ideas speak to you? Experiences. What experiences rejuvenate you? Friends. What people encourage you? I'm on this webinar with Jess, and I love getting on here because we get to encourage and motivate each other. Even from, I've been in California, she's been in Florida. We travel, and no matter what, know who your friends in your circle is. Recreation. What activities revive you? And then talking about the soul, what spiritual exercises strengthen you? Find what sets your soul on fire. Hopes, what dreams inspire you? Giftedness, what blessings activate you? Memories, what recollections make you smile? And then books, what have you read recently that's changed you? And guys, I encourage you to read, whether even if it's an audible that you're listening to, but get good things fueling your mind. Books are incredible. So, you get the idea. You can add other categories, but optimize these, hone in on each one of these, and assess your current environment. And if you don't have any of these checked off, start to fill in those blanks and add things to your life that really lift you and fuel you and bring your environment to a more exciting and stimulating surrounding. Jeff?
Awesome. Yep, that's awesome. This one here, change yourself and your environment. It's not like it's one and then the other, one or the other. It's a combination. It's in order to grow, it's when you change both yourself as well as the environment that is surrounding you, that's when faster growth, more successful growth can happen because there are two complete shifts internally as well as the external environments that are being fed into you, right? So when you can combine that and allow that to happen together, that's where the beauty and magic of change begins to occur. The attitude and mind shifts, and then you're making different choices. You're finding out, like these 3 questions, you're finding out the soil, the air, the climate, the things that nourish, keep you alive, and sustain you. And that's really how it kind of all feeds into each other. This is a really cool part of, for me, where I began to see big changes. I literally picked up and moved to another city. Hadn't done that since college, okay? I visited tons of places, but to literally pick yourselves up, pack the stuff you need in a car, drive, 6-8 hours away and say, here's where I'm going to plant myself. Boom. 3 to 6 months, who knows? It ended up being a little bit longer. At the end of the day, it was a necessary vehicle, if you will, for me to shed and regrow and be reborn. And that's something that's pretty awesome. So I'm going to pass it over to Jess. This is an area that I know that you've excelled in, and I'd like to hear your feedback too.
Absolutely. And, this part is key. And getting thrust into environments that are not comfortable requires adaptation, which requires change and growth. And, being around positive people, I've been grateful to come to a city that I never thought I would live in. Atlanta has not only stimulated my growth, it's been this soil to root down and plant in to flourish. And, gives me more purpose in life as well, but it's also surrounded me with an amazing community of people. And people challenge you and grow you, but if you're not in the right circles, you better get out and find the right ones. So a couple of questions in here that he talks about, but there's a guide. And in 1973, John Maxwell wrote this. I wasn't even alive then, but he says, others are ahead of me. I am continually challenged. I encourage you guys to start positively saying these things over and over in your head. And if it's not there, start to utilize these tools to help you feel your success. My focus is forward. My atmosphere is affirming. I am often out of my comfort zone. I wake up excited. This part I love because I remember when I changed careers from pharmaceutical to direct sales, and in between that, I worked for a digital marketing company. And I remember going for an interview, and I walked in the front door, and the president of the company walks in with a mohawk, a button-down shirt, and jeans. And he's like, it's going to be a great freaking day. And I was like, sign me up for this job, because this guy's excited. He's not in a corporate suit. He's amazing. He's got this energy and aura. And I was like, I want to be a part of this environment. And thrusting myself out of a career that was stifling into a career that was exciting and exhilarating helped me flourish. John Maxwell talks about how failure is not my enemy. Others are growing. People desire change. Growth is modeled and expected. Guys, growth is modeled and expected. Just hone in on that one for a second. If you're growing, other people are going to model after you to grow. If growth is expected, they're going to have to change. So change should be expected. So if you're not in an environment that's not changing you, I challenge you to get outside that and find ways to grow by plugging into a new coach, finding a new book, getting outside your comfort zone and serving people, doing something that you're not used to that will make you a better person. So, Jess, I'm going to kick it back over to you for the next one.
I wake up excited. I love this. Okay, so we're going to change who you spend your time with. That's a tough one. It's funny. I've had a few mentee, if that's the right term, mentee conversations with some folks who look to me as a mentor, and which is kind of an odd thing. I'm like, I'm a mentor. Cool. That's awesome. But these individuals have recently realized that it's the circle. It's their circle of influence that has maybe held them back from growth, either in life or in their business. We happen to be, sideline business partners. And it's interesting when we talk through that, because these are folks that they have surrounded themselves over time and time again. And I love the quote by Jim Rohn when he says, we become the combined average of the 5 people you hang around most. For John Maxwell, to quote Jim Rohn, hello, it means something, right?
Right.
One leader quoting another, okay? And then I am a sports geek, so this one was really, this piece of the chapter really spoke to me, because I understand that in sports teams, if you don't have the right chemistry, you're not going to win. You won't be successful, and it's the same thing in life. If I don't have the right chemistry with the folks that I surround myself, if it's not a positive influence like Jessica, if it's not a positive influence like the other mentors and leaders that we have, or someone like Mike who's on this line every week, if you don't surround yourself with people like that, that's where the breaks in your growth happens. That's when it starts and stops and starts and stops, and there's not a continual state of growth. So the one that I want to highlight, and I'm going to pass it over to Jess, but Sue Enquist, she is one of the most winningest coaches around. Okay. I've actually met her before. And I mean, I was like, oh, they're quoting her. She's an incredible, not only a coach, but a leader in life. I mean, she was at UCLA, I mean, she knows John Wooden. Give me a break. I mean, what better coach are those two to model, right? From a female and a male perspective. And she has a 33% rule. And I love that because it's so true. It's like people in life come into 3 categories, right? There's the bottom, middle, and top. And those at the bottom are the ones that are just going to kind of drain you. And they're the people that when something goes bad, oh my God, it's bad. When things are good, they even think they're bad. They're in that space of nothing is good enough. Okay. Then there's that middle tier of people that, on the surface, if everything's pretty good, they're good. But then when things go south, holy cow, the world's falling, the sky's falling down, and, no one can get, orange juice at the grocery store. I mean, it's like terrible stuff, right? And then there's that top tier. And that top tier, there are people that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They have a positive attitude no matter what the tough situation is. Okay, I'm surrounding myself with those people every day, okay? And we're looking at a couple of them right now, between Jessica and Mike and everyone else in our circle of influence. It's the leaders, it's the influencers, it's the game changers, okay? When we talk about an accountability partner, that's what we do here. That's what we do. That's the culture we do. And in the business we're in, if you don't have that, that's a huge game changer in the wrong way for you to have versus the positive way. So that accountability to look someone in the eye and say, I need these things. And Jess will probably go through those questions and those things that we need out of that accountability partner, because I know I found one in her and I hope she's found one in me in order to be able to bring the best out of each other. And this is, to me, one of the crux of this whole chapter is truly who is your circle of influence. That's the game changer to me. So I'll pass it back over to you, Jess.
Yeah, and I'm going to dive into those questions on the next slide, but just to stay on this slide for 1 second, Jess talked about the 5 people. So take those 5 people, write them down, and then look at this list and say, does that individual love you unconditionally? Do they desire your success, your true success, not with ulterior motives? Are they mature? Are they in a good state that's going to allow you to mature and blossom? And are they going to ask you agreed upon questions? So questions that aren't going to detract you, but that are going to stimulate you, and that are going to help you when you need help. Are they going to be there for you? Are they going to have your back? So, but let's talk about challenging yourself in your new environment and diving into this piece. And in your new environment, when you're looking at high profile leaders and you're talking to high profile leaders, I actually used some of these this morning, and I picked up one of our top leaders in our company, one of the gentlemen who has mentored me for the last 4 years, and just what an incredible guy, multi-million-dollar earner, and somebody that is the most humble, genuine human being and has just fathered our company. And talking with him, asking them pointed questions, saying, what are your strengths? And that's really where you're going to learn the most. What are they learning now? Asking him, okay, what books are you reading? What are you doing to fuel your growth? Because, if I'm not learning, I'm not growing. And if I'm going to model after somebody like that, I want to know what they're learning right now. And then asking, okay, what do I need to do right now? And in my case, I was like, what do I need to do right now to be where you're at? And this will help you apply really what you're learning to your own life, and ask them who they've met, what they have. And I missed a D on there, but what they have read or what they don't. So you guys, you don't have to be smart to do these webinars. What they've read or what they've done that's helped them. And he mentioned that he's been rereading Think and Grow Rich. And I love that because it's one of the oldest books out there, but it has the most profound knowledge. And then ask them, why haven't I asked that I should have? What haven't I asked that I should have? And this just enables you to point out changes made from your perspective and asking them, hey, I've asked you a bunch of questions, but what haven't I asked that maybe I should know or that you can give me? And, really just focusing on these types of questions as you're challenging yourself will help you grow in your new environment, or even just going to the 5 people that you surround yourself and saying, hey, what do you see as my strengths? What are you learning from me? Or what can we learn together? And having that reflection about, like, a couple of the laws we've learned already is law of reflection, law of the mirror. Taking these and applying them to your environment will help you to sustain that and to grow that and to be aware of what you're doing.
Awesome. Awesome. Just a couple things. I love exactly where your mindset is here, Jess. And then delving a little deeper, it's how do we apply that? And he talks a lot about in this chapter, stretching yourself by developing the habit and discipline of challenging yourself. That's where you stretch, is when you challenge yourself every day by making your goals public and looking. What he does, and I love this idea, is to look for one major growth opportunity every week. Now, we have opportunities to grow every day, every minute, every second by the decisions we make, right? But to think of one major growth opportunity, for me, it's been this last week, has been the relaunching of my business through a new initiative that has occurred, right? And it's getting me to actually step outside and think outside the box of how to invite, how to share, and how to draw people into me as the messenger, not the message, but the messenger of who we are and what we are, okay? And that has been a really unique opportunity, and that's been my growth this week that I know I'm going to feel for many, 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 many years to come because of what's occurred in just this week. So, Jess, that's awesome. Let's pop over to the next one. I'm excited. Oh, number 5. Awesome. Woo, this is one of my favorites. He knows that because I used to always say, let's just take a moment, let's breathe, let's focus in on that moment, and let us truly respect where we are at this time, right? So Harvey Firestone, today is when everything that's going to happen from now on begins. That's a really cool quote, where everything from now on begins. And, it's living and working in that moment. It's understanding where your presence is most felt. And it's most felt when that true connection can occur between 1 or 2 people. That's also been a big growth for me this weekend. I've always been a connector and a networker, okay? But when I say connection now, I'm talking communicate, where the listening happens first and the talking comes after. That's the moments that I'm talking about. So guess I'm going to pass it back over to you. I'm stoked about to hear what your thoughts are here.
Yeah. And, yoga teacher training really helped me to focus on the present. And this morning on Instagram, I posted I had the opportunity to hike up a mountain while I was in California and just sit at the top of the summit after walking all the way up there, challenging ourselves all the way up there and just sitting there and looking over the vast mountains, the beach, and just sitting up there and saying, wow, just focusing on that. And, Mother Teresa says, yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today. So let us begin. So if you need to make changes in yourself and your environment, do not dwell on your past. You can't change it. Don't worry about your future. You can't control it. Focus on the current moment and what you can do right now. Like, too many people are worried about what happened or where they're going to be tomorrow or what they're doing in the next few minutes. Focus on where you're at right this very moment. And, when people ask you, what's your favorite memory? Say right now. And make sure that is the state you want to be in. Tony Robbins talks about living in a positive state. And when you do that, it fuels positive mentality all the time. Because too many times I think we get too focused on the negative rather than flipping that to the positive and just being present where you are right there and enjoying it and being content. So Jess, let's dive into number 6.
Awesome. So number 6 is just, moving forward despite criticism, because we're all going to face it. that circle that we talk about. If it's not the right circle, guess what happens in that circle? Criticism, finger pointing. Really, you're doing that? You're doing that business model? Seriously? That's where you're at? And that's where growth comes from. It comes from taking action, and taking action will always bring criticism. I worked for the city for almost 11 years, and I finally understood you can't make everybody happy. Like that saying was like true. Every day that I walked in those doors, I knew I was going to be faced with a citizen who wasn't happy with the decision that we made as a Parks and Rec department. Every day. And it was usually more than one. And I was the one who took the calls. So I heard them all. I allowed them to voice their opinion, whether they were loud, high, wherever. And it made me realize that no matter what, I was making decisions that I felt were best for the city as a whole. Whether or not they themselves personally felt that or not, that was on them, not me. And it was a very big dichotomy that I had to work through. This is an incredible thing. Whatever course you decide upon, there's always someone to tell you that you're wrong. That's Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he's so right. And Les Brown also said someone's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Simply make your own decision, as you are ultimately accountable. This is in the book. Ultimately accountable for the choices you make in your life. It's my choice. Jess makes hers, and Mike makes his, and everyone else who's watching this makes their choices. You got to own those. No matter, some are going to be great and some aren't going to be so great, but they're yours. You own them, and you move forward regardless of what is surrounding on the outside. So, Jess, I'm going to pass it back over to you. I'd love to hear your take on this particular section.
Yeah, I think this one's key. And in my life, my family didn't necessarily understand what being an entrepreneur was. And they're like, why don't you go get another degree and get a real job? And for me, I just have always had this entrepreneurial spirit. So, in this chapter, they talk about seeking wise counsel and, seeking wise counsel, because there are times when I discourage people from, doing something that they don't want to do or that they're not good at, because they either aren't passionate about it or they're wired to do something else. So don't do what people think that you should do. Do what your soul calls you to, what your passion is, and then seek wise counsel to make sure that you are on the right path or that you have the tools to set you up for success. I get approached by opportunities all the time. And this past week, I had the opportunity to work with one of my colleagues who's also one of my mentors, and he's an engineer by trade. And I had this opportunity come into my life, and I said, what do you think about this? Like, let's dialogue through this. Is this a decision I should say yes to or say no to or learn more about? And why is this in my life? And just stopping to assess that and saying, okay, and the end conclusion was, I'm not going to do that, but holy cow, what an eye-opener of the gifts and skills I have and the opportunity that is out there to think outside the box and move forward despite what other people say. Because, if you allow people to decide your own future, they don't have much plan for you. And so you better get laser focused on what you're doing. And once you decide, you commit to it, there is no reason you won't succeed. So move forward with laser focus, and people want to go where leaders are going. If you have no direction, people aren't going to follow you. So if you're a leader, if you're a business owner, if you're a CEO, if you're somebody that runs something and has people that follow you, get laser focused and don't worry about the critics unless they're valid, and then seek wise counsel. But moving forward despite criticism is absolutely key in all aspects of life, and it will help you get laser focused on what you desire, not what other people desire for you.
Awesome. Note for leaders, I love this. It was a quote that I took, and it's just something that he wrote in the book. As a leader, my responsibility is to create a positive growth environment for others. Many people will blossom, grow, and become leaders as a result. And I thought about that. And I thought about the business model that I'm in, right? And there's been a stalling in my business up until recently. And I had to look in the mirror. We talk about the law of reflection as to why that could occur, right? And when you take a step back and you make a cool analysis, which included my environment, right? It really is about taking that responsibility. While I believe I'm in now a positive, growthful environment, I've got to be able to translate and transfer that space and that environment to others and create the culture the way that I want to do it here on Jessica Perez's team, right? And who will that be and how will that look? So it's almost like painting an awesome picture of what you want that environment to be. And if you're in a team setting like we are, okay, like Jess and I are, then it's painting that picture of what you see for your team and within your space. And each one of us has that opportunity. So that's what I took away from this note for leaders when he was talking about the responsibility that we have towards others, not just yourself, as you're moving through this growthful opportunity. Yeah. So I'm going to pass it back over to you. I know that there's some pieces there that I know that you wanted to touch on.
Yeah. So this note for leaders, and, I just appreciate John Maxwell pouring into this and talking with one of our colleagues this morning. He's just been such an incredible leader, decades upon decades upon decades of experience in leadership. And, really just keeping it simple. A note for leaders, one of the first things is to assess your environment, but look at this like what he created for himself in 1973, and it hasn't changed. So think about what you're doing today to set yourself up for future success. This little model that he said, creating this list, about positively saying this. I know I said it earlier, but say this to yourself over and over and take responsibility, create the initiative in your own life. And when leaders match those roles in their organization, it's, you won't be weighed down. You'll continue moving forward. So saying this to yourself and, teaching others to think the same way is going to help catapult that growth as well. So, taking this note down, taking responsibility, and then let's dive into how to apply this to your life. The first one is to assess your current environment when it comes to growth. And there are 10 statements that we're going to talk about. And I didn't put them into a slideshow here, but if you listen to the recording, or if you want to jot these down, or if you have his book, highlight these and then start to check them off yourself. The first one is saying, others are ahead of me. I am continually challenged. Number 3, my focus is forward. Number 4, the atmosphere is affirming. I am out of my comfort zone. I am excited. Ask yourself, do you wake up excited? 7, failure is not my enemy. And as you remember from a few chapters back, a few lessons back, failure is the catalyst for success. People who fail the most succeed the most, right? If you're failing forward. Others are growing. Number 9, people desire change. And then the 10th one is growth is modeled and expected. So, asking yourself, are you modeling and expecting growth? And hold yourself to that higher standard. So Jess, do you want to dive into number 2?
Yeah. So those are like true false questions. And if you answer false to more than 5 of those statements that Jess said, then your current environment may be hampering your growth. And it's time to really take a serious look at this particular chapter and changing that environment. So the next piece is really assessing your personal needs. And to do that, it's 3 main areas that we talked about. The main areas are things like, what nourishes me, right? It's growth. So ask yourself, what nourishes me? What creates the ability for me to grow? What keeps me alive? That's your purpose. Mm-hmm. So determine it by using the law of awareness, the law of consistency. What is that purpose that's driving you? In our business model, if we don't have a good purpose, we won't be successful and our growth will stall. It just will. I've seen it happen to myself and others alike. Okay. Have that deep. And then the third piece to that is what sustains me. And that's people, like what's happening right here, connection. Be sure to spend the time with folks that are in what we call that larger unit, that raise you up, that elevate you, that create a space for you to be in a good space. Those who are stronger, faster, brighter, smarter, right? Those people are the ones that you surround yourself with, and that's how you elevate your current position in order to be able to be ready and be in that personal growth space. So, Jess, pass it back to you.
So the last one is diving into this next piece. Going back, the last question, significant growth won't occur in your life if you're not continuing to be challenged in your environment. So, just asking yourself, reassessing, go back over some of these questions that we talked about today. Assess your environment. Are you in an environment that's allowing you to flourish, to maximize your potential and to grow? And who are the people you're surrounding yourself with? I'm getting a little feedback on here. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. So yeah, I mean, the best thing to do is look for the potential in yourself and your environment, people that you're surrounding yourself with, your team, and plan for it each week. You know, I use a day planner. And so I started to put things in. I started doing this journal called the Rock and Fit Body and Mind. And so I use a day planner, but I also use a calendar. And on the top, it's got, you know, I do meditation, wake up saying gratitude, mindset pieces every day, setting your intention, and then, you know, focusing on, you know, the physical fitness, the things that stimulate you, your creativity, maybe it's music. And then going throughout your day and having little things in your day that teach you what you're doing and keep you on the right track. Maybe it's a reminder, set up a call with your mentor each week, and plan your weeks in advance. And those little small changes over time set you up for massive success. And then in the evening, I have evening power and meditation questions. So going through assessing your day. What did you learn today? What did you do great today? What do you need to do better tomorrow? What can you set yourself up for to be more successful for when you wake up? And then writing those things down so when you go to bed, you wake up, drink a full glass of water, and get started on your day and just have that positive mind shift. And, you know, I plug into Darren Hardy Monday through Friday. You know, Saturdays are my fitness days. Sundays are my days to serve. Throughout the week, I just love pouring into my team, my mentors, and then growing. I mean, we're all on this journey together. So I get excited about Fridays. I know Mike's on here, and I'm excited when I get to see him every Friday, as well as working with J-Lo. And guys, think about this. You know, we're nearing Thanksgiving. It's a time for gratitude. A lot of you are going to be going into positive environments with family. Maybe those aren't positive environments, but look for the positive. Look for those ways that if it's not fueling your success, what do you need to change to grow? And Thanksgiving is an awesome time just to be grateful for those experiences that we have in our lives, those opportunities we have to grow, and just really realizing, okay, what are the things that need to change? Because come full circle, where were you last Thanksgiving and where are you this Thanksgiving? And what do you need to do to be better for the next Thanksgiving? So guys, it's been an honor. It is each and every week. Thank you for joining us. Tune in live every Friday at 3 p.m. for the next 9 weeks as we uncover the next 9 laws of growth. You can follow J-Lo online. She's got an amazing Instagram profile and some awesome positive tips on there too. So we'd love to connect with you on social media, on LinkedIn. This video is posted on our YouTube station. It's under Crate Consulting on YouTube, and it'll also be listed on LinkedIn. So thanks for tuning in with us. We absolutely love you guys and are proud of your growth and proud of you just taking the 30 to 45 minutes each week to tune in and listen to us and grow with us and work on your own positive growth, because it's the ripple effect. If you better yourself by 1%, you better everybody else around you who betters everyone around them, and that goes so far. So let's trickle it forward. J-Lo, thanks for being on here with me, and we'll see you guys next week.